Welcome everyone to our webinar, Eden Stories webinar. We're kicking off bang on time today, so we'll get started. We've got a few minutes from me first, so anyone arriving a little bit late won't be missing too much because Sylvia's obviously the main draw here. Thanks for joining us. I think this is going to be an enthusiastic, knowledgeable and inspiring talk today from Sylvia. I used to work at the Westmoreland Dale scheme, and Sylvia was a big part of that. So I know, I know how knowledgeable she is. So we're looking forward to this. I'm the work at Eden Rivers Trust on the Access to Eden project. I'm the communications and marketing and admin assistant on the scheme. So I've put these talks together as part of the Access to Eden project. Organised as a project, it's a 4-year project sponsored by the National Lottery Heritage Fund. Just a few words about the logistics today. You won't be on screen. Your microphones won't be enabled if you're tuning in, so you can relax. That's fine. It will just be Sylvia and me on screen. We'll be sharing a recording of this talk later in the week. We'll share the slides from Sylvia too, so you'll have a chance to look at those at your leisure. There's a lot of information there, which is fantastic. Sylvia's obviously gone to a lot of work and a lot of trouble putting it together. So that's great because more information is always better than not enough information. So that's good. During the talk, you can type questions using the Q&A function. We'll review them at the end of the talk and we'll select as many as we can, answer what we can. What we can't answer, we'll probably pass on to Cumbria Geoconservation and get a panel there to answer them for us. So we should be able to answer everything that comes at us. We've got closed captions. There's an option at the bottom of your screens if you're hard of sight and you need to improve the vision, then you can use those closed captions, or if you're not hearing well on your connection, use those too. It makes life a lot easier. So as for today, 2 minutes from me. We'll hand over to Sylvia for her talk, and then we'll do a quick Q&A and we'll wrap it up before 4. Before 4, I promise. We'll stick to time. We always do. So just a few words about the Access to Eden project. As I said, it's a 4-year project running in the Eden catchment, funded predominantly by the Heritage Lottery Fund. Led by Eden Rivers Trust with some major partners. We've got Cumbria Wildlife Trust, North Pennines National Landscapes, Yorkshire Dales National Park, lots more besides. I won't mention them all. So the title on screen is Breaking Barriers and Building Bridges, and that's predominantly, what it's been set up to do. We're going to be improving the opportunities for people to get out into the Eden catchment, experience it for themselves, whether that's through just promoting walks or volunteering, providing training in surveying or citizen science, water safety, plant ID, that kind of thing, just to give people that live in the catchment, whether it's in Carlisle and conurbations or out in rural areas, the confidence really and the information to access the catchment and learn about it and enjoy it. So most of the work will be focused on what we're calling doorstep sites, and we've got them listed. So there we'll have extra work going on. Engine Lonning in the heart of Carlisle will be putting in better access and pathways and a lot of interpretation on the history. For instance, it was a train yard, it had canals in there. Hadrian's Wall runs through it, so there's so much depth in that one site. We'll be uncovering and actually getting communities involved in some of the restoration work there and the volunteering work to clear the site. So that's a really exciting one. We've got our community tree nursery in Penrith run by ourselves, the Eden Rivers Trust, where we've got communities coming along, sharing a cup of tea and planting trees, which will go on to be planted out in the catchment. So a lot of work going on. And some wider schemes, improving habitats. We'll be out doing an invasives roadshow this year, doing a lot of balsam pulling actually getting community groups signed up to do that in their own areas too. So there's quite a lot of wider schemes going on alongside what we're doing, just to enable more people to get out and enjoy the catchment and find ways of, connecting with where they live. So enough from me on the project. I think submit questions as Sylvia goes through her presentation. Sylvia's from Cumbria Geoconservation. It's a fantastic organisation. They've got an amazing website, so I'd urge you to go and look at that if you want to know about anything geology related. There's lots of walks on there, geocaching, and as much information as you could want, really. So if you need to know anything more after this talk, which you probably won't because Sylvia will probably cover everything, that's a good place to start. And they've got loads of great walks on there, and they're all annotated, and they're all give you as much all the geology information you could want as you're going around the walk. So if you're a bit of a novice, then you can get some of their information, do a walk, and actually pick out sites and actually learn for yourselves and see it with your own eyes, which is, a wonderful way of learning. And those sort of things do stick in your mind. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, Sylvia. And I'm going to ask you to share your screen now, and we'll hand over to you for your talk.
You've really you've taken the wind out of my sails by saying that I'm from Cumbria Geoconservation. That was going to be my introduction. I'm the geological coordinator, which means that I respond to planning applications within the Westmoreland and Furness area. The Ian Francis is the geological coordinator for Cumberland Council. I'm also with the Westmoreland Geological Society. Cumbria Geoconservation designates local geological sites. These are designated for their geological interest, their educational and landscape value, and possibly for the history of geology. Access doesn't in fact come into the designation. I am not an expert on the area, and I don't live in the area, but I thought, well, I'll see if I can find out what kind of information is available about the geology. As you can see, I've chosen Bongate Scar in Appleby as the first slide, and it's not the best example to have chosen from an access point of view. It's a wonderful site. It shows you the red bedrock, the Penrith sandstone that underlies the Eden Valley, and there's lots of wonderful features, but it is in fact private. So this picture was taken on a trip with the Westmoreland Geological Society, where the leader actually had to ask for permission for the gate to be opened in order to visit. Now, let me see. You have seen this map before, and the two doorstep sites that I think coincide with special geology places are Armathwaite, where there's some very special rocks, and Smardale and Wakeby, again where there's some special rocks. And we do feel that we would very much like to have some geological information in a hub at Kirby Stephen, if that is possible. So I don't think I need to say much more about this map, other than the Eden Valley extends from southeast to northwest. And so that I'd like you to vaguely think about that. The Eden catchment is huge. I'm sure that you know about that. 80 miles long, and from Helgill Force just in the south, right up to the Solway and beyond. The Eden Valley has a character different from most of the rest of the Lake District, in that it's underlain by and large by these red rocks, which used to be called New Red Sandstone, although geologists don't favour that particular name now. There are about 60 local geological sites designated along its length, so 60 out of 300 in the whole of Cumbria really is not bad. The southernmost are in Malastang, near Wildboar Fell, and Janny Wood. Now, as has been said, the best source of information for geology of the Eden catchment is the website of Cumbria Geoconservation, which is www.cumbriageoconservation.org.uk. It is hosted by the CBDC, but we do have our own web address. This map will open in the drop-down menu. It won't be exactly this map, because I'm very pleased to say that Mustafa Elouida, who is the officer, the data officer for the CBDC, designed this map for me. But if you go onto the website, you'll see the map, but without the Eden catchment being highlighted. Every green dot is a local geological site. The red starred ones are 5-star sites. Those are ones where the geology is spectacular or easy to access. I'm sorry, I haven't identified which of these are actually 5-star sites. But as you can see, there are a lot of places where you can visit the geology in the Eden catchment, and there are quite a number of our 5-star sites. So I'm possibly going to mention some or all of these. These are arranged from north to south, with Glasson Point being a drumlin on the Solway, Weatherall Woods, Lowhouse Woods, Armathwaite, Lacey's Cave. Some of these names will be familiar to many of you. And the abbreviations next to them: Carboniferous rocks, Penrith sandstone, B for Brockram, and the St. Bees sandstone. But hopefully all of that will become apparent. Now, I've tackled this from the point of view of where do you need to get information from. Now, geologists have a little bit of a habit of writing in geological language for geologists. So you either have to love them or hate them, and of course I love them. This map is courtesy of the Yorkshire Geological Society. Geological maps are shown with the oldest rocks at the bottom. So these are the Ordovician and Silurian rocks of the Central Lake District, those that are very, very different from the Eden catchment. The blue is dominantly Carboniferous limestone. As you can see, there's quite a lot of it, and there is quite a lot in the Eden Valley. But the rocks that I want to focus on are characterized by P, the Permian and Triassic. And here is the Eden Valley, the Solway. You can notice that the rocks, these Permian rocks, go all the way round to the west coast, St. Bees Head, and under the Irish Sea. And also on the other side of the Pennines, they are underlying the east of Yorkshire and underneath the North Sea. Important rocks, they hold water, and in the past they held gas and oil. This map is a structural map, and it shows you blocks and basins. And the Eden Valley is a basin, and it comes up against the Alston block, which is an uplifted block. The division is the Pennine Fault or Pennine Fault Zone. It's a major rupture in the Earth's surface, which is a very dominant landscape feature in the Eden Valley. The Eden Valley is called by geologists a half graben, a graben being a rift valley, but it doesn't have an a westerly side to it, but it's a dominant feature. So looking at the geological memoir for Appleby in the chapter about the Permian and Triassic rocks, you have this stratigraphic column: oldest rocks at the bottom, youngest rocks at the top. Out of this, the sort of names I'd like you to pick on are Brockram as being the oldest of the Permian rocks, and it's found in certain localities only, but there's a lot of it in the Eden Valley. Then you have the Penrith sandstone and the Eden shales that you don't really see unless you are going to go down a mine, and then the St. Bees sandstone. So those, I think, are the things that I would hope that you would take from this particular column. Now, coming to other sources of where will you find information about geology, there are a series of geology trusts around the country which produce perhaps geology intended more for the general public. And this is a little map of theirs that I found. And this little yellow area is the Eden Valley. And it's the Eden Valley in Permian times. We're talking about 300 million years ago. And it's shown as being dune fields, desert with bark dunes blowing around, surrounded by highland, separated from the Lake District Centre and the Pennines. At this scale, there are no lakes shown on that one. So the Carboniferous mountains were eroded away and formed this distinctive rock called the Brockram, which I think is best seen around Kirby Stephen, but you can see it in lots of other places. This is a barn on the Geo Trail around Kirby Stephen, and the left-hand one is in the River Eden at Stencrith. Another way of looking at geology that you've probably seen on the internet, and this is a source, I don't know who has produced this, but plate tectonics has been around since the 1960s. The knowledge that the Earth's made up of tectonic plates which move, and so continents and oceans in the past have been very, very different. I'm not going to concentrate on any of these globes apart from the Permian one. It's saying, I think, 255 million years ago. And Britain was in the middle of a vast continent called Pangaea, Britain with the Eden Valley, about 20 degrees north of the equator, similar latitude to the Sahara, but right in the middle of a continent, so no rain-bearing or few rain-bearing winds could get in. So it was a desert environment. But it gives you a picture of how the environment underneath the River Eden has changed over 400 million years, if you're actually able to picture that. The last globe here is showing the Paleogene about 50, 60 million years ago, and the British Isles moving steadily northwards. I think we can say the block of tectonic rock that we're on at the moment is moving northeast, a couple of millimeters every year, getting further and further towards the north. Something to think about when you're on a geological walk. Now, having said that our website is the best source of information about the geology of the Eden Valley, this book, this book revealing the foundations is the one that you all really need. I don't need to say any more, it's brilliant. The book is available in the TIC in Kirby Stephen and available through the website of Cumbria Geoconservation. Elizabeth Pickett wrote this book, and it is the way that she's described the geology is absolutely brilliant. And she has she's a geological artist, so she's drawn what the Carboniferous was like and the limestone pavement. But there is a chapter on the Eden Valley, and you'll see I've pinched a couple of her pictures. So she's talking about the Brockram, Penrith sandstone and St. Bees sandstone. Now, I don't think I'll get much time to get on to this, but in the book, she does go through all the geological ages of the rocks in the Eden Valley, with a chapter about the Ice Age. Now, if you want a webinar about the Ice Age, you need to ask Professor Paul Carling, because he is much, much more expert in what the Eden Valley was like in the Ice Age. Unimaginable thicknesses of ice, which in some went some weird and wonderful directions at times, and then produced huge volumes of meltwater when the glaciers melted. There were lakes all over the place, and in fact, the first picture I showed you was a river cliff cut by the River Eden when it was swollen by these amazing meltwater rivers. Now, I've also been looking at other sources, and I have come across this wonderful simplified map of the geology of, well, the Eden Valley, but it's been produced for the Settle Carlisle Railway, and it's available on their website. I'm not sure this is the easiest web link. It's a brilliant leaflet, as it would be, because it's written by the geologists at the University of Leeds, where I did my degree years and years ago. Leeds is best. But I have to say, thanks to Chris Darman. Now, Chris Darman produces this magazine called Down to Earth, and I subscribe to it. And I would really recommend it if you want to have an easy introduction to geology. So Chris Darman had found this map, he'd found this publication, and I think it's a brilliantly simple map because it's showing us the blue of the Carboniferous limestone. It's showing us the millstone grit, which we see around Wild Boar Fell and the headwaters of the Eden. It shows where the Penrith sandstone is, dominantly the west side, Penrith, Lazenby, Armathwaite. It shows the thin band of the Eden shales. I don't know enough about the route of the railway to know if the railway particularly picked out the Eden shales as being easier to excavate, although they might not have made very solid sides, and then the St. Bees sandstone on the eastern side. So I really recommend that to you as an excellent little downloadable geology booklet. And once again, you don't need me. That says everything you need to know. Now, Elizabeth Pickett is a brilliant geological illustrator, and I have her permission to show you this original painting. Now, I think that her designer partner has Marcus Byron has reversed this. I'm not quite sure which way round Elizabeth painted this, but it is the Eden Valley, all those 350 million years ago. What you're seeing on the right-hand side is the escarpment, the faulted boundary in the earth with the Carboniferous rocks, the layers of limestone, sandstone, mudstones, all etched out by this desert. And alluvial fans with scree deposits. This is the formation of the Brockram, and you can see why it's outcrop, thicker in some places, thinner in some places, absent in some other places. So the Brockram is forming. In the foreground are Barcan sand dunes. These move along with the current trade winds. They can be hundreds of meters high, and this is what formed the Penrith sandstone. There were occasional storms, and a river might well have come in to form a salt lake, evaporating to leave gypsum and hydrite, and there are mines in the Eden Valley that regretfully I've not actually yet been in. So thank you for that. Purists will want to say that not all of the Brockram came down from the Pennine Scarp. Some came, if you like, into that picture. But I still think that that's a brilliant geological illustration. Now, there are a couple of other ways of looking at the sandstones, because it isn't always easy to identify which one that is. It is, and in fact, we've argued long about the columns in the marketplace in Kirby Stephen. The bottom two pictures are what are called photomicrographs. They're taken of incredibly thin sections of the rock, looked through a geological microscope. Now, the PS on the left is Penrith sandstone. This is desert sandstone, often called millet seed, because the sand grains, by and large, are perfectly rounded. They're perfectly rounded because they have been blown in the wind and they've impacted on each other. And so they've rounded the edges over millions of years. In fact, these sand grains might have been around since the beginning of geological time because they're made of silica, quartz, very, very resistant. By contrast, the Penrith sandstone was formed by occasional rivers. And in a river, the sand grains are protected by a coating of water held by surface tension. So although some of the grains may be rounded because they've been derived from this older rock, many of them are not, and they're not as well sorted. And they actually have got some fine muds and finer sand within. So there's more of a mixture. This is better sorted with the Penrith sandstone has more pore spaces. Now, geologist Paul Logan, who lives in Gamblesby, has taken these photographs. Now, he said he's taken them with his camera from actual rock exposures. So that's something that I must try to do. So here's Penrith sandstone with its millet seed sand grains. I think I'm convinced about this, but I'm not entirely sure. Here on the right, the St. Bees sandstone, and you're definitely seeing angular grains of sand, and that to me is saying that's definitely been laid down in a river. Anyway, try that, taking close-ups with your phone of the surface of the rocks. So you've got to get up and close to these rocks. Now, what I want to do now is the quick going through the landscape. So here we are up on the top of Wild Boar Fell. We're actually on Carboniferous Millstone Grit, and we're looking at the early part of the Eden Valley. A great place to go to, wonderful views, and it's a local geological site for the variety of land slipping. The valley was glaciated. The glacier would have come right to the top of the valley, and it would have supported the rock. When it melted, the rock sort of expanded and came forwards and collapsed. So you have got almost fault scars on the edge here, rotational slumps, and you've got a tremendous number of what geologists landslip deposits. There's rotational slips. There's almost every kind of collapse feature. This was once the top of the cliff, and it slumped down. So was this. You can see screes. So it's a very spectacular place for studying the most recent landforms. It's believed some of these may have formed about 11,000 years ago in the so-called Loch Lomond Readvance, when there may have been glaciers in this area for the last time. Now, if you go to Pendragon Castle and you walk north towards Kirby Stephen, I really recommend this walk. You see the River Eden in Malastang in this bottom left picture, and this is Cattergill Scar. It's Carboniferous limestone, and it's actually a tilted bedding plane that's been re-excavated. There is a fancy name for that. But the local geological site is in fact actually in the River Eden. Now, this is termed Janny Wood, and this is the wood, and it's not marked on the Ordnance Survey maps, and it's a site of international importance as being a junction between two Carboniferous time zones. Now, we're getting quite complicated here, Asbian or Brigantian, and you have to get in the river. Elizabeth and Peter are standing on what may be the junction there. You need the rocks are vertical, and say on one side they're Asbian, on the other side they're Brigantian. International groups have been over and extolled the importance of this particular site, worth having a look at. Now, I was looking to see what geological information is there about the Vale of Eden. To some extent, you don't need information, you need just to look at the Pennine Scarp. Now, this picture was taken, the top picture was taken in January in 2019, and the light's brilliant, and geology is one of those things you can do in winter. So it's really, really good for a winter walk. Now, I do realise that the bottom picture isn't winter. The bottom picture is some of the trustees of the John Strutt Conservation Foundation, and they commissioned this interpretation board at Big Hill Cutting, local geological site. North from Kirby Stephen to the village of Winton, turn right, little lanes, and you can park by the side of the road, and the cutting is level. It's part of the railway line that Smaردale is on, and it goes through a different set of limestones there, Carboniferous Robinson limestone. They have there been tilted, and they're reddened by the red rocks that used to be there but have disappeared. So I would commend that site to you. It's very interesting and it makes a level walk, so it's good for access. Now, we were walking around the boundary of the Westmoreland Dales at the beginning of that project, looking for a boundary walk. It didn't work because the boundary wasn't the interesting thing. It was all the limestone in Great Asby. But almost wherever you are in the Eden Valley, you see the difference between the valley itself, this half graben, and the Pennine Fault Scarp zone, this complex zone. So I think this one is let's say that one is Dufton Pike, and that's Merton Pike there. And you can see Wainwright's monstrous paraphernalia up on Great Dunvale. So a very dominant landscape feature with different rocks. And one of the problems of geology is you don't see enough rocks because there is material on top. So the rocks under the ground here have been covered over by glacial till, maybe a drumlin, can't quite tell, and then covered with grass. Now, another interpretation board that you might not know about, but is well worth going to see, is at the village of Merton, at Merton Fell Gate. Once again, Elizabeth Pickett designed this because one of the skills that she has is this ability to draw a block diagram. So you have the Eden Valley with its red rocks underneath, and you have the Pennine Scarp and different faults. I think many years ago I wrote a booklet about this, but there are many booklets about the walks that you can do up onto Merton Pike. So that is another source of geological information, a geological walk that I commend to you. I was quite surprised when I started this, just how much geological information there is out there. Now, I think that what Chris was referring to are the leaflets that were produced as a result of the Westmoreland Dales project, and these are brilliant. I can say that because Marcus and Elizabeth produced them. This one is around Kirby Stephen, and you'll recognise a little bit of Elizabeth's painting. And this is the map showing the route. Now, the traditional route is that you'd start at Frank's Bridge and you'd walk along by the river, past that barn where there is the Brockram, and then cross the river on the Wobbly Bridge, or whatever it's called, along to Stencrith, where you see the Brockram, and you then follow the river, and at Halfpenny House, you can actually join this trail if you've come from the railway station, because the former Cumbria County Council put in a path, and so you can then join the route by going down to Nateby, where you can see an unconformity. You can see the Brockram over the limestone, and goodness knows how many million years are missing there. And Nateby is the Brockram there is just unbelievably wonderful. So here's the Permian Brockram in the River Eden at Stencrith. There's a geocache and an earth cache there if you're into that. And it's just the most wonderful feature. It's a local geological site, and you can download further information and fact sheets about this. And here is the Brockram. It's made up of fragments of carboniferous rocks. Because they were formed in desert conditions, they are not necessarily rounded. One of the best places to see these is in the buildings in Kirby Stephen, because they're built of the Brockram. You can see how it's formed in layers. These layers might have been successive flood deposits, and it's actually made very good building material. So this is the barn that is by the River Eden. Nateby amazes me because the Brockram is not only the rock that is under the ground there, but it forms a relief feature, and you have these lines of exposed Brockram that you cross when you're going on the public footpath. Other boards that are available for you to see are in the railway huts at the new Smaردale Cumbria Wildlife Trust car park. So one is about Smaردale, from tropical seas to glaciers, lots of information on that. And the other one is rocks from ancient deserts, and that is, again, you see this block diagram of the Eden Valley. Now, Whately, I think, has become one of my favourite places. This is an example on the left of a fact sheet that was produced as a result of the Westman Dales project, available to download from Cumbria Geoconservation website. And there is an earth cache along here. It's fabulous. You're going along, and I don't know whether I want to give away the story, but you're in limestone, and then suddenly you come to the Brockram, and the Brockram sort of shouldn't be there. It's exposed in the Whately cutting. Now, one of the things that we need to fit in from a local geological point of view is that many of these trees need to be cleared in areas so that you can get up and have a look at the size and the shape of these boulders to work out what it is that they are. Now, there's also a walk around Smaردale, and that is designed to go over Smaردale Fell, come down to Smaردale Bridge, where there's some Ashfell sandstone, and back along the old railway, the Stainmore Railway, which is the ultimate access. Now, this is actually not on the railway, but it's looking at one of the quarries that was used to excavate the Ashfell sandstone. It's carboniferous sandstone used to make the viaduct, and the limestone is on the other side. So here is Smardale with the restored, well, the now restored lime kilns. And I've just put this picture in from 2015 to say the sad thing is that the limestone gets to be covered in vegetation, but that vegetation is very special. So we do say the geology is best studied outside the orchid growing period. So this is the Smardale the Smardale Bridge local geological site on the footpath to Ravenstone Dale. Now, I put this picture in, it was from your website, and I'm not sure I'm entirely happy about the tree planting. Hope it won't obscure geological sites, but that's a particular bugbear of mine, so I'll pass on. Ravenstone Dale, these pictures are all of the so-called Ravenstone Dale group of rocks. They are 350 million year old carboniferous rocks. They're the oldest in the country, and I must get round to writing a little trail to explain those rocks. I won't do now, because when I found them, they were numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. However, the Wildlife Trust has got Balberhead Farm, which is absolutely wonderful. I mean, if you just park on the green there, this stand is full of different sorts of rock. The river, the Scandal Beck, has been naturalized and is forming wonderful meanders. I mean, a superb place to go and visit. And Andrew Walter, the Wall, had found this block of sandstone that had been washed down, and it's full of a trace fossil called chondrites. I'm sure that that rock will have been saved and will have been put into a wall so that you can actually see it. Now, this quarry, which is near Cold Spring, possibly wants to be cleared a little of its vegetation. I don't know whether any volunteers as a part of this scheme might take on something like that. Bowscar Quarry is a local geological site. It's a working quarry. I've put this picture in to show you the size of the dune bedding, to give you some idea of how big those sand dunes were that formed the Penrith sandstone. He does have a showroom in Penrith, and the owner, he loves rocks, so that's worth going to. And Lacey's Caves, Penrith sandstone, above the River Eden. Very special, bright red rocks, and they are full of quartz veining. Now, I don't think that I've got time to explain why they're full of quartz veining, but they are very spectacular and worth a visit. Now, this is one of my favourite sites in Armathwaite. You park by the side of the road, and there's a level walk above the river, and you can get hands on to the rock. St. B sandstones found in Dufton Girl, and these are pictures from our website. It needs a visit to go and see how good those rocks still are. And Weatherall Woods, owned by the National Trust, and once again a site that could possibly do with a little bit more geological interpretation. But at the entrance to St. Constantine's Cave, you can see the sandstone there. Now, the site that I think is possibly the most exciting geologically is at Armathwaite, where you're going to put in some improved access for canoeists. Now, I don't know to what extent canoeists want to know about the rocks, but they need to know about the rocks, because this rock here, it's grey and it's blocky and it's hard, but it's young. It's only about 57 million years old. And it was red hot. It was intruded between the rocks, coming up as a sort of wall-like feature. It never erupted. And it's come 400 kilometers from the Isle of Mull. And I mean, if this isn't the most amazing story, I don't know what is. And it forms this waterfall feature on the river Eden at Armathwaite. So I would put in a little plea while you're putting in interpretation for canoeists. Could you possibly also put in something about this dike? Now, there's lots of other geology that we could talk about if we had time. Um, and we were involved in a survey, archaeology and geology, for about Long Meg, organised by Paul Frodsham, who's written a report. And then finally, I would say that it's always good to have a look at the at buildings, and this one is near to Long Meg. So my final plea to you is get up and personal with the stones in buildings.
Thank you, Sylvia. That was fantastic. I can see just how much work has gone into that presentation. And just to let people know, we'll be sharing the slides along with a link to the recording in the next few days. So that's a good thing. Okay, thank you for that. Well, I think you've been let off the hook today because we don't have any questions for you.
Great.
Um, I've got a bit of information from David. The Revealing the Foundations book should also be available at Appleby TIC. I'd just like to ask, well, as a sort of novice in terms of geology myself, is there a route or a day to spend in the Eden area that would inspire someone that's new to the subject? If you could choose a route or a place to send someone, do you have a favorite?
Ah, well, right. I mean, the Wainwright answer to this, Chris, is that my
Yes.
favourite place is the place I happen to be in.
Yes.
Um, and I think it's a great pity we can't get David to answer that one, because he is probably better at getting people to appreciate the geology when they have no background. I
Mm,
mean, I think I would say Waitby cutting. I mean, I would be the um, I would take a visit to Waitby cutting because it's nice and easy, it's level, but it wouldn't be a full day unless you went round the Smaردale
yeah.
Trail. But Smaردale or Kirby Stephen. um,
Yeah, and that's one of our doorstep sites too, where we're putting in a better access for people. So that works out very nicely. I've got a question from Tim. Where can people get the Kirkby Stephen Skingrith leaflet?
on our website,
Right, okay.
Cumbria Geoconservation. Now, I think that there is still a website for the Westmoreland Dales,
There
and you
is,
can
yeah.
go. It might be available on the Yorkshire Dales Rock website.
Yes, and probably
Uh,
through Friends of the Lake District website if people want to go via that too.
Possibly, yes. Um, I mean, the leaflets are available on the presentation. We
Yeah,
could send them out separately if that would be easier for people.
okay, that's good. And your website address is on the screen. I just say that if people want to find out some walking routes or site maps, publications, geo trails, it's all on there. Um, uh, I don't know whether you offer volunteering opportunities or you run walks via that, or there's somewhere people could find out where they might join a walk. That was my other question.
Right. Our primary role is to try to protect the geology of
Mm,
Cumbria and to make it better known. We don't, as such, organise walks. However, many of us are members of either the Cumberland Geological Society or the Westmoreland Geological Society. Now, each of those has a website, and I know that Cumberland has just produced their program of visits. And new members or visitors are always welcome. I can't off the top of my head remember whether any of the visits are going to this area, and I think the Westmoreland programme isn't quite finalised yet. As I say, I could offer a walk at Waitby, or I could offer a walk at Armathwaite, but I'm definitely not the best expert at Armathwaite.
Yeah, David said he's organising some walks for Friends of the Lake District in the summer, so they'll be publishing details on their website
Yeah,
near the
yeah.
time. One question here for you, just the tester. Is there any St. Bees sandstone in the Eden Valley?
Yes.
How was it formed? You said underwater. Would that be river or sea formation?
Right. Hmm. Right. They say there are examples of St. Bees sandstone. The last two that I hurried past, that is Dufton Gill and Weatherall, are St. Bees sandstone. The sandstone is red. It was formed in a desert, so it was formed on land. It was not formed under the sea, and it was formed by rivers. Um, One of these rivers was so huge, it came from northern France, and it flowed north, and it got as far as the Eden Valley, and it carried pebbles and sand it was called the Budliensis River, because if you want to see really good pebbles, you go to Budley Salterton on the coast of Devon. So uh, those two places. I think it would be nice if we could produce some geological information for Weatherall Woods, but that would have to be done in conjunction with the National Trust. And I haven't, I'm afraid, been to Dufton Gill Woods myself for ages, but there are other members of Cumbria Geoconservation who I think could lead a walk. And in fact, we might actually put it on the Westmoreland programme now you've mentioned it.
We'll wrap it
I
up
hope
there.
that answers the question.
I think we'll wrap it up there. That does indeed. I've taken your plea on board as far as Armathwaite goes, so I'll feed that into the project manager for that site. I think it's an excellent idea myself, but we'll see. We'll be sending recording of this talk, and we'll be sending a copy of the presentation or a link to it to you, so you'll have all of that amazing information to look through. And thank you again, Sylvia. I know how much effort has gone into making that presentation Eden catchment centric. Really appreciate it. And we'll wrap it up there. So thank you everyone for attending. We'll have another talk at the end of February, and we'll send you details of that to your email addresses. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chris. Thank you.